And with that, let's bring in Morgan Ortagus, former State Department spokesperson. So let's listen to what Antony Blinken said yesterday, Morgan, in Tel Aviv, where he appeared to telegraph to the Israeli leadership exactly what they wanted to hear. Listen here.
Israel has the right to do everything it can to ensure that the slaughter Hamas carried out on October 7th can never be repeated. Hamas cannot remain in control of Gaza. It cannot retain the capacity to repeat that carnage. That was only underscored by this morning's appalling terrorist attack on people waiting at a bus stop in Jerusalem.
So he seems to be saying the right things in public, but the concern is that the backup from the Biden administration may not be there in the future.
Well, I think what we're seeing, John, happen is what many of us were afraid of, which is that they would stand by our ally in the days and the weeks after October 7th. But as the fighting began, that it would sort of start to become death by a thousand cuts. And I do think you're seeing the Democrats and the left fall for the propaganda that's been put out by Hamas. And you're starting to see, especially in that leaked audio from the meeting that Blinken was in, it's kind of bizarre that that was leaked. But what you saw whenever Blinken said, well, I'm not sure that you have the credit in order to continue to destroy Hamas. I mean, that undermines Israel's entire objective. You know, our objective when we went into Afghanistan after 9/11, what was our objective? Is that we wanted to destroy al-Qaeda, and we wanted to make sure that Afghanistan was not a place from which the American homeland, could be attacked again. And they have similar goals, obviously, for Hamas. The Israeli people cannot live in fear of terrorist groups that are like al-Qaeda or like ISIS, groups that we fought so that they could not attack Americans as well. So I would say today, and I don't say this lightly, I having worked for the last Secretary of State, John, I try to be careful with my criticism of the current Secretary of State and his team. But some of the stuff that he is reportedly saying behind the scenes, I consider shameful. And I consider it selling our ally down the river, saying one thing publicly. And that's what this administration constantly does, which is a communications exercise, which is we're going to say one thing, but we're not necessarily going to back it up in actions behind the scenes. And so this, you know, Israel is left in a predicament. I don't recall Blinken flying to Ukraine every other week in order to micromanage their war, right? The way that he is doing to Israel. And this is a sovereign state, right? This is not a satellite state of America. This is a sovereign state. They are our ally, but the micromanaging from the Biden administration, especially when they can't even get all of the American hostages back, is too much. It's gone too far.
Let me come back to the point that you were making there about what's being said behind closed doors and just add a little context and perspective to it, because you mentioned a transcript that was leaked. This transcript of the closed-door meeting between Antony Blinken and the War Cabinet was leaked to Channel 12 in Israel and then reported on by the Times of Israel. Listen to this exchange, and this is the one that you alluded to. The defense minister, Yoav Gallant, apparently says in this meeting, the entire Israeli society is united behind the goal of dismantling Hamas, even if it takes months. Antony Blinken's response, I don't think you have the credit for that. As a former State Department employee and spokesperson for the former secretary, decode that for us. What's he saying?
It's hard to know what he means by the credit, but I think he is essentially saying that you don't have the political capital on the international stage to be able to actually destroy Hamas. And if that's what this administration really thinks behind the scenes, that is a massive problem. You know, we have all been worried that it would be death by a thousand cuts, and that when things got really tough for Israel in their fight against Hamas, that the administration wouldn't stand behind them. You know, I'm also concerned about how politics may be playing into this, John. We know that the president is underwater in his approval ratings. We know that he is losing to former President Trump. Michigan is going to be a critical state. Reportedly, Democrats in Michigan, especially those that are pro-Palestinian, are not supportive of the president's actions towards Israel. So part of me wonders if this administration is starting to play politics because they're worried about their poll numbers in Michigan.
Yeah, you mentioned Ukraine. I mean, I don't think that the president is too worried about the Russian vote in the United States, but he certainly is worried about the Arab American vote. Morgan, good to see you. I hope you have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.